if you are not passionate about our U.S. and local governments, I can only wonder why.
Pastors need to be on the front lines in the battle against the deep state, in the battle to preserve our faith, our families, our freedom, our country, our Constitution, and all of the blessings that God has showered on this nation. Without pastors, the cause is doomed. The Bible says pastors are supposed to be shepherds, right? They're supposed to help lead God's sheep, protect God's sheep, and unfortunately, pastors today, by and large, have failed in their duty.
In modern-day America, we have adopted much this same separation as we have compartmentalized our Christianity, much like a picnic plate. We have our religion. We have our spiritual area of the plate, which we keep over here. And by the way, you notice we keep it separated from every area of life. We don't want to allow Christianity in the teachings of Jesus Christ and biblical teachings to affect us as to how we train our children or raise our children or educate our children. After all, we've got better teachers like Dr. Spock to draw from now. We don't allow Christianity to affect how we behave as husbands toward our wives or as wives toward our husbands. We don't allow Christianity into our workforce or education. And we certainly don't allow Christianity into our politics. Christianity has become something that we do on Sunday morning. And we don't let our church thing interfere with the rest of our lives.
So if you're not familiar with the Black Robe Regiment, this was actually a derogatory term that was used to talk about the pastors who really were on the front lines of establishing America. So in the 18th century, after the Great Revival, we had pastors who were leading the charge for liberty. One of the ones we learned about was Reverend Jonas Clark, one of the guys on the front lines of the earliest skirmish in the war for American independence. When the British came to Lexington and conquered, he was actually the leader of the militiamen there. Another one we learned about was Peter Muhlenberg, Pastor Peter Muhlenberg. He was a Lutheran pastor working in Virginia. And he preached this incredible sermon. He's preaching out of Ecclesiastes. He says, there's a time for war, there's a time for peace, and there's a time for war, and that time is now. And he rips off his black robe, his pastor's garments, and underneath he is wearing a military uniform. He had received a commission to lead a regiment from Virginia, and he went and he signed up the men of his congregation to go fight in the war for independence.
Since our government continues to expand its influence, it now believes it has the right to determine when life begins and when it can be ended, what and who defines gender, who defines marriage, what is and is not immoral, when churches can gather to worship, and what can be taught while there, whom churches and ministries have to hire, how much government will tax us, and that they have the right to spend our tax dollars on abortions and buying the aborted baby's body parts. As Joshua discovered when confronted by the captain of the Lord's host, the appropriate question is not whose side God, the captain, is on. The correct question was then and is now, who is on the Lord's side? He doesn't choose sides, we do. Yes, God does fight for those covenantally aligned with Him and supports those aligned with His truth and virtues. God's intent is that all government at every level, from a home to a nation, flows from Him and is based on His principles. I think I need to read that again. God's intent is that all government at every level, from a home to a nation, flows from Him and is based on His principles.
Understand that God created 4 realms of government, not just one. We have been trained to think government, we think of the White House, or we think of the U.S. Capitol, or we think of the Oklahoma Capitol. Nope. It began with self-government. Genesis chapter 1. And Adam was told right and wrong and told what he could and couldn't do. Then we see family and family government introduced in Genesis 2 and 3. I've got on the list church government was introduced in Acts 2. And we are now kings and priests. Whereas in the Old Covenant there was the idea of the Levitical priesthood. But then fourth, you've got civil government, which was first mentioned in Genesis chapter 9. These are the four realms of government, and applying proper responsibility in each category is what we must do. For example, whose decision is it for you to decide whether you are going to drink a 32-ounce soda or a 16-ounce soda? It's yours. It's not Mayor de Blasio's. That's your responsibility. You also are responsible for the consequences. It's okay to have a 32-ounce soda. If you have 10 of them every day and do that every day of your life, it's not going to turn out well for you. Self-government. Masks are self-government. If you are compelled, based upon your understanding and talking with your doctor, that it is better for you to wear a mask, by all means, I want you to wear a mask. But it is not the mayor's responsibility to mandate masks any more than it's his responsibility to mandate we have to wear a jacket every time the temperature falls below 40 degrees. That is part of self-government. Understand, tyranny comes when the civil government oversteps and starts invading the other areas of government. Is everybody with me? By the way, self-government, the most important thing in self-government is what you are going to do with Jesus Christ. The mayor can't make that decision for you. President What's-His-Face can't make that decision for you. That is up to you. It's up to each and every individual. You've got to determine whether you're going to bend your knee to Jesus or not.